didn't think it would end this way.
End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path. One that we all must take.
They're the greatest piece of film ever made. I always like the idea of being like transported into a new world. Because it looks so good and it sounds so good and it's such a good story, anybody can enjoy them. But then also, if you're a filmmaker in particular, there's so much to appreciate. It made me want to make something with such intention and something that was so meaningful and had such a big impact on other people.
Hey folks, welcome back to Film Nuts, where we discover the lore of why we love what we watch. Fellow citizen of Middle-earth, Taylor here in my own little shire here in my backyard, and I'm glad to be with y'all yet again. So let's think about this for a second. The movies we keep coming back to year after year, what do they all have in common? Is it the massive world building, or is it expertly choreographed fight scenes, or is it the depth of emotion conveyed within the film? Each of our letterboxed top fours most likely all have a through line of one particular theme or element. But what if it's more than one thing that we keep coming back to? What if it's everything we've ever wanted in one movie? Or for today, in 3 movies. The Lord of the Rings trilogy, directed by Peter Jackson, is one of the most, if not the most, successful and highly acclaimed trilogies in cinema history. The adaptation of J.R.R. Tolkien's novel was brought to life with such care and attention to detail, it resonated with audiences around the world. This powerful combination of expansive lore and world building with grounded emotional truth struck at the core of my guest today. Matias Faundez is a content strategist and producer who was immediately enthralled with Middle-earth from a young age. He loved being swept away to a world not his own and fell in love with the characters in the process. It was so awesome to chat with Matias about his first experiences with The Lord of the Rings, his chance meeting with Andy Serkis, and how the principles of this extended trilogy can be applied to all of content creation. Matias is such a fan of the series, he even brought me a cloak. So, adventure awaits. Here's Matias Faundez talking about The Lord of the Rings right here on Film Nuts.
Thanks for bringing the cloak.
Yeah, man. Gotta look the part.
You're absolutely right. I was, as I was watching these movies, I was like, yeah, I could rock a cloak, like with the leaf pin.
Yeah, like they make you want to be in that world.
Yeah, like it's so...
Wear the costume, carry the sword around.
Yeah, have you LARPed before?
Not officially LARPed, but
not
like
officially.
cosplayed.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you? What's new?
Yeah, man, great. I've been great. Making a lot of YouTube channels lately. Making a lot of YouTube videos with my business. We just had one of my clients pass. We started her channel 3 months ago, and the latest video just went over 300 views, which is a huge milestone, reaching those numbers where YouTube's starting to push your videos out, So getting to like 600 monthly views is great for that channel. Super stoked about it. Another one we just launched for a local event, actually one called the Festival of Legends, which is like a medieval Renaissance. It's a fairy festival. So it's like kind of like a Renaissance fair, but more magical, less like reenactment.
Okay.
And we just launched that YouTube channel. Super stoked about that one too, because it's so visual. And because I can do things like make videos that look like fantasy films for it, So.
How did you, you're running a business that helps people out with YouTube, whether they individual. Cheers, by the way. Yeah, thank you. Whether it's an individual, an organization, small business, whatever. So what got you into making videos at the start?
I mean, I started making videos 20 years ago, and it was because of movies like The Lord of the Rings.
In the land of Mordor, in the fires of Mount Doom, the Dark Lord Sauron forged in secret a master ring to control all others. And into this ring, he poured his cruelty, his malice, and his will to dominate all life. One ring to rule them all.
I always liked the idea of being like transported into a new world, you know, into like a fantasy world, escape from the real world, and telling a really cool story that also looked beautiful on screen, that like used, you know, special effects and that sort of thing. And so with my friends, we started just trying to make videos in high school. I guess I was probably in middle school at the time, or early high school. And we were just, you know, making fantasy videos, making sci-fi videos, you know, little skits, like trying to use special effects, practical effects, you know. We weren't good at After Effects, so like we would throw a bunch of snow on a trampoline and use that as an explosion.
That's creative.
Yeah, and now like 20 years later, I was thinking, you know, I was working this job. I wasn't super happy with it for a number of reasons. And I thought, you know, how can I take my love for making videos and my experience, plus combine it with my now career in marketing and business development, and kind of do my own thing and help other businesses, you know, market their business and make more money through cool videos. And so I quit my job. I started thinking about how to make this happen. And you know, like there's so many other video production companies everywhere, you know, and there's so many freelance videographers everywhere.
I was one for a very long time.
Yeah, and I got so many friends who were, and I thought, you know, I can always do that. Like that's something that I could do. But then the more and more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't want to compete in that same space because it's so hard. There's so many good, talented people out there doing it. And I thought, how can I differentiate myself? And then the only other thing that I've never been great at other social media, but the one platform that I've been on almost as long as I've been making videos was YouTube. You know, I've been on YouTube since 2007. And I decided I've always wanted to have a successful YouTube channel, and I've never put in the time to just learn what it takes to do that. So why don't I do that and then teach other people how to also be successful on YouTube? And then eventually that morphed into the idea of growing YouTube channels for other businesses to increase their marketing, to get more sales, to get more calls, to get more clients, whatever.
Interesting. So what about Lord of the Rings made you want to make stuff, man? Like, let's be as broad as possible with it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is these films they're not like any other film that you would watch, in the sense, to me, like they're a unit. You know, they're 3 films. They're each almost 4 hours long, and they are like one cohesive story. And all the work that went into making these films happen is a level of work that you just don't see anywhere else. That doesn't happen anymore. And all that culminated in these set of films that transport you to a new world, that tell a story that is already, you know, it was already a story that blew other stories out of the water, you know, with the books. It had been adapted into different films before. There was the animated set of The Lord of the Rings from like whenever that was, which they were good movies, and I'd watched them when I was a kid. But then Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy just created this thing that was a movie, a film medium that just transported you to a new world, and that's what it did for me.
A wizard is never late, Frodo Baggins. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.
It's wonderful to see you, Gandalf.
It gave me an appreciation for cinematography and for storytelling through visuals. It gave me an appreciation for costuming and production design, which is probably one of the greatest achievements in film history with this movie. You know, spending 3 years making chainmail by hand so that it would look real in the films.
Yeah.
Like you just don't do that anymore,
No.
right? Like nobody does that. So like all those little details created this film trilogy that was like nothing I had ever seen before.
Yeah.
And it just made me want to do it. It made me want to make something with such intention and something that was so meaningful and had such a big impact on other people. So I started figuring out how could I do that and how could I start making videos and get to that point.
Take me back to, I would say, the first time you saw Fellowship of the Ring. How old were you? Where were you? Who were you with? Or do you even remember?
I hardly remember, but this was back when I did not see it in theaters.
Okay.
But when I first heard about the Lord of the Rings films, it was because everybody at school was talking about the Two Towers.
Okay.
What year did the Two Towers
2002.
come out in? 2002. So I was about 10 years old.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. And yeah, everyone at school was talking about the Two Towers, and I didn't know what it was, right? So people were telling me, oh, you got to see these movies. The Lord of the Rings are so good. And so back then we could go, I lived in a small town in Kansas, and we could walk to the library, which was just a couple of blocks from where I lived, and rent movies from the library.
Hell yeah.
So this is 2002, and they have a library of VHS tapes of all these different movies.
Yeah.
And there they had The Fellowship of the Ring. And so I decided to grab it. I brought it home, got my family together, and was like, let's watch this movie together, you know? So it would have been probably in like 2002 when I watched that film. I watched it with my family. And all I remember about watching it is when they're in Moria battling the goblins. And then the troll comes in. That moment where like I felt like I was in this new world and there were these bad guys and there was Legolas looking so cool with his bow and unlimited arrows, you know, shooting them.
Right.
And then Gandalf with a staff with the light on it and a sword. And I just thought that was so cool. And that's like the moment, the earliest moment I remember watching The Lord of the Rings that like really pulled me into the story. I remember I wanted to be Legolas at that moment.
I was rewatching it this time, and I was like, yeah, Legolas is cool. I was like, I think Aragorn's my guy now, though.
Yeah, same. I feel like that now too. As you mature,
Yeah,
you
right.
realize like Aragorn is such an interesting character. Yeah, he's definitely my favorite now, I think.
Yeah. You said that these films, or at least the first film, like showed you kind of this new world you hadn't been exposed to before. What about that got you hooked and interested to see the next two films?
Once we got done watching The Fellowship, I think I watched it maybe 3 more times before I took it back to the library.
Wow.
And then I just couldn't wait to go see The Two Towers. I just had to get my hands on it. And so I had to wait until it came out in, I don't know if it came out in DVD at the time, but eventually I got my hands on it, watched it, and then it was just waiting for The Return of the King. You know, it was like, I gotta see these movies now. I don't know if there was anything in particular that like made me have to watch them at the time. It was so long ago, I can't remember. But I remember it being a really special time when we went to the movie theater to watch The Return of the King when it came out. And that was 2005, 2006, somewhere in there?
Return of the King?
Yeah.
2003.
2003.
2001, 2, and 3.
Wow, they came out back to back.
Yes.
Yeah, wow, that's so cool.
The movies that really got me into filmmaking and just the visual medium in general, they were all like, I don't want to say unimpressive films, but they weren't epic at all. There wasn't like, oh, some people were like, oh, Fight Club's really cool. Like that got me into it. Lord of the Rings got me into it. Star Wars. I was like, I think Rat Race is hilarious. I was like, give me, I'm laughing so much at these dumb comedies. This looks like fun. That's why I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to have fun for a living. But to have that introduction and then, you know, go back and have a different appreciation as I go through college, as I go through the watching all the films you're supposed to, like from the dawn of cinema up until now, like the appreciation grows. And like when a couple of years went by and I just rewatched the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I was like, I should have been more into this.
Yeah.
Because it's so
amazing.
impressive.
Yeah.
It's so impressive.
They did so much with them.
Yeah.
And that's something that I feel right now too, is the appreciation for everything that went into them. Again, like you don't make movies like that anymore. You know, nobody's doing that. It would be ridiculous, a ridiculous budget to try and do that again.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's not something that came until later, you know, until I was an adult, until I had enough experience making videos and making films to know what goes into it.
I'm very curious about this because I feel like when you talk about you can't make this movie now, or if you did, it'd be like a bunch of CGI crap that looks like CGI crap. I mean, there's CG parts of this film that like don't age well, but like what does? But so much of this is practical. There's so much magic in this. When you think about the videos you make, the videos you instruct your clients or you make for your clients, in a world where we're kind of inundated with the word content and that businesses have to put out video content in order to be relevant. How do you connect or maybe balance this idea of like things can be so magical with the almost everyday grind of someone having to make something to put it on YouTube?
I think there's kind of two parts that I like to lean on when I'm thinking about that. One of them is the passion that people have for a specific subject. When I think back to the movies that really pulled me in, it was because I fell in love with the world and with something about that world. You know, with The Lord of the Rings, I kind of fell in love with everything. Yeah. But you can pick any particular thing, and there's so much to learn about it. All the different races that live in the world, and their backgrounds and the history of all the different regions, all the different battles that happened. Even, you know, the history behind like the shape of the elven swords versus human swords in the movies. There's a lot there to dig into, and you can see you feel the passion of the people who made the films and the passion of Tolkien as he wrote his book, you know, reflected in the amount of content there. And I think that's something that, like, even when we make content nowadays, we can show that passion, you know? We can show that passion by talking about the things that we're into, by talking about movies and like what it takes to make a movie here, for example. We can show that passion by, I don't know, if you sell toilets, you know, and you're just like, you probably know a lot about toilets and about how toilets are made. And it's probably really interesting when you think about how toilets are made, the structure of a toilet. They have to be structurally sound. They have to look good, you know, because they might go in your guest bathroom and you want people to think you have a good bathroom.
That's true.
And there's somebody out there that thinks about these things, and they think about it nonstop.
You're right.
Yeah.
Like somebody has to care about it.
And when you're making content, you can make a video about toilets, and you can talk about that, and you can talk about that passion. And there's going to be somebody out there who is your right audience member who's going to be like, oh my God, this toilet is a piece of art, you know? And I think that's something that we can do no matter what type of content we make. So that's one thing, is showing the passion.
Yeah.
And getting like really into it, knowing our audience and knowing how to communicate that passion to them. And then the other piece, the second piece, is connection with the characters, or in a nonfiction work with the talent, with the host, with whomever is on camera. And authenticity. When we watch movies, one of the most important aspects of writing in movie is character development, because people connect with the people or the characters they see on screen, because that's what reflects the human emotion back at us. That's what, you know, feels relatable to us.
Yeah.
And when we're making content, it's so important to be authentic and to connect with people on a human level like that. To show your true self and to become the character that people see in you, in your promotional video, whatever it might be, as the authentic version of the person that is explaining about toilets, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So those two things, the passion behind the subject matter, and then the authenticity in the character or the talent.
I really like that take. I think what's interesting to me is the fact that we, you know, in the internet right now, in the world right now, like authenticity is like so much of a buzzword that a lot of people just lose sight of what it actually means. And I feel like you brought up a really good point. It was like, you know, it's something, you can have any different meanings, but for someone who's watching a video on YouTube about toilets or Lord of the Rings, like what's authentic is almost, I feel like the authenticity that I attribute to like the stuff that we try to make is the connection. Even if we're watching actors play somebody else. Like they're being authentic to who they believe the character is, but at the end of the day, they're being somebody else. So I think that is where, when we talk about authenticity, like the connection is what's really important. Yep. And which I really have to ask you, what was it like meeting Andy Serkis?
That was so cool. That was so cool.
I paint the scene, man. I need context on this.
Yeah, man. So this was GalaxyCon Raleigh.
Okay.
So it was July. It's the biggest geek convention that happens in downtown Raleigh, which means like it was packed. So many people. And Andy Serkis was one of the biggest celebrities that was attending the event. And so he had a table set up. And of course, as soon as his time slot started, or even before, there was already a huge line there. And I was covering the event for a newsletter that I had in a YouTube channel called Nerdgate Southeast, all about like North Carolina nerd culture, geek culture events and all that.
Great.
So I had a media pass to GalaxyCon.
Hell yeah.
So I used my media pass to go up to the front of the desk before Andy Serkis got there and talk to his agent. She was really cool, really nice, and just told her a little bit about me, and what I was doing, and just that I wanted to talk to him and see if he'd be willing to, do something on video. And she told me no, because it's going to take a lot of time away from, like he has very limited time while he's there, and he's got to, be doing the autographs and things. But I was like, okay, cool, no worries. But like forming that relationship, made it so much easier when Andy Serkis did get there for me to like go back there, be able to like she was able to put me in the VIP line for him. So
Awesome.
like a little bit shorter line, I got up front and just got to talk to him for a few minutes, which, I mean, it felt like 5 minutes, honestly. It was probably not 5 minutes, but like he took his time with everybody, which was really cool to see. He was super intentional about like talking to the fans, about talking to people about all his work. Of course, a lot of people were there for The Lord of the Rings, but other people were fans of other works of his. And it seemed like he really knew why he was there, Like he knew he was there for the fans. And so he took his time talking to everybody, smiling to everybody, making eye contact, hearing their stories, and just seemed like a super cool, genuine guy.
Through that conversation and then the conversations you kind of like overheard or whatever, like, what does he talk about? Like, what do people ask him?
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah?
My girlfriend told a story of when she was auditioning for a play or something in high school, I think, and she can do a Gollum impression. So she was telling him the story, and he's like signing her book, and then she does the impression, and he just like stops and looks up, and he's like, "Oh my God, that was amazing."
Do you have a favorite character from this trilogy?
Besides, like, I think just what I said about Aragorn, I think as I've gotten older, like he does kind of become this character that you can really like learn a lot from and look up to. Almost like the representation of heroism, of loyalty, and of masculinity in these stories. And it's portrayed so well by Viggo Mortensen in the films. And such a well-written character. I think I would have to say Aragorn.
Speak to me a little bit more about the masculinity aspect. I'm very curious about what you mean by that.
Yeah, so this is a character that we see in a lot of different situations. In situations where other characters have failed due to ego, In the films, Boromir is tempted by the ring, and he falls to that temptation and tries to take it.
That's
from
also
Frodo.
Sean Bean. He just dies and everything.
Yeah, true. Yeah. That is his MO, and he's my favorite too. He's so good. But we see Boromir in that situation, and then later Aragorn is in that situation, and he does not fall. He understands the risk, and he sees his own faults of man in himself, and removes himself from that situation. Before he's able to do that. We also see him in intimate settings of love where, he's with I'm blanking on her name. Arwen. Thank you.
Thank you, Marquita.
Where he is with Arwen. And it's a portrayal of love and of honesty that is really good to see from a character that's so strong and masculine, in a film like this.
Si pelianen ni vadna dialin, si boy withanatha. Ayu estelio achnad, estelio an, estelio amen.
So the versatility in his character and how he's always true to himself and always still, all about protecting the people around him and doing the thing that he knows needs to be done, which is in this case, destroying the ring. Even though he doesn't play the central part in it, it's almost like he's the central glue for everyone else. He holds everyone else up to be able to make that happen. And then, of course, all the fighting.
Yeah.
He's just the badass.
Duh. Like, come on. We talk about the filmmaking stuff. Is there something that you've learned maybe about, I don't know, philosophical level or a human level from watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
I want to look up the quote that Gandalf, unless you guys know it, the thing that Gandalf says to Frodo when Frodo says,
I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
that is a thought that I try to carry with me all the time, because it's about making the best of your situation, right? It's about the reality that we can't control a lot of the things that happen in the world, for good or worse, for good or bad, but we can control what we do with our situation. And that's been something that's been so helpful for me in my life, just in general. I think we all go through things, that are really difficult. Life is hard. And remembering that we have the ability to do something about those situations, to whatever extent, at least we have the choice to do what we will with the time that's given to us is so important. So that's, I think, my favorite moment as far as, philosophical moments go and learnings.
The downside of me prepping for this episode was I had to watch all of them within a very short amount of time. So I feel like I didn't have a lot of time to process
And I wanted to watch them, but I'm actually watching them with a few friends of mine next weekend.
Okay.
And I thought it was going to be way too much to watch them so close.
That is a
together,
lot.
So.
You're like, I just saw this.
Yeah.
But one thing that did have me think, it was toward the end of the Return of the King, when I forgot if it's like through a voiceover or whatever it is. So basically, like, from the time Frodo leaves the Shire to the ring being destroyed is 13 months. And I'm like, if you just for me, it was 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is. But I feel like if I ever get frustrated with my own timeline, I feel like that's a good reminder, in the sense of not everything is going to happen right away. It took them 13 months to do this thing, just reminding myself that it's okay not to keep track so much of my own internal timeline. I feel like where I should be, or seeing, or what's that saying? Comparison is the thief of joy. When you see other people doing what you want to do, and you love what they're doing, and you're happy for them, and you yourself are I want that. How does to remember that should not become what's wrong with me? It should just be, that's great. I will get to where I'm supposed to be in my own time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great things take time and a lot of sacrifice.
Absolutely. We're going to play a little game. I like playing games on these episodes this season. This is going to be fun. Okay, I'm going to name some characters, and I want you to tell me what kind of YouTuber they would be.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to start off kind of an easy one. I feel like this might be easy. Sam.
Gardening.
Okay, I was gonna go food, but I like gardening. That's
No,
a good one.
he'd have a gardening channel 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I like it. Pip and Mary.
See, that's a good one. I think they would be almost like a sketch comedy duo.
Okay.
Where they would just think of what's the most fun thing we can do that we know people are gonna react to, and just go try and get a reaction from them. They would have filmed that entire sequence of them stealing the fireworks from Bilbo's party.
That's true. That's true. It would have been edited like some Mr. Beast video or something. Treebeard.
How interesting. This would be a poetry channel.
Oh.
This would be Treebeard reciting poetry.
Uh-huh.
And then talking a little bit about his interpretation of the meaning behind it.
I like that.
And it would be very aesthetic and very intentional with how it looks and sounds. And it would be for a very specific audience. An audience that wants to sit there and listen to poetry for
I like that, because
he
would take his time.
Yeah.
He would absolutely take his time. Worm tongue.
He'd be he'd have one of those pickup artist channels. Yeah. Except it would be all about how to manipulate people, and how how to be the real voice behind the king's
Oh
speech.
my gosh. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's what we would do.
Galadriel.
I like to think of Galadriel as a teacher of history. She has been around longer than anyone else in Middle-earth. She would be one of the keepers of history and teach about everything that has happened. Almost like an unbiased perspective that's still a little bit biased against, Morgoth and the whole Mordor thing.
Yeah. Is there a character I haven't mentioned whose YouTube channel you would want to see?
Oh man, Boromir's?
Yeah?
Yeah. Boromir would have a channel on leadership. And he would do a mix of videos that are like lessons on leadership and how to be a good leader. And then also like vlogs of being of like training soldiers and being a good leader for his soldiers. And the best part is that Faramir would be shooting everything and he would be telling him like what to say too, off camera. So you'd like kind of get both of them for just that one channel.
It's a family operation.
Yeah.
Would their dad show up at all?
No,
No, he would not. Tell me about your favorite scene or moment from this entire extended Lord of the Rings trilogy.
I think it's between two, if I can cheat a little.
Sure.
Because one of my favorites is at the very end where the hobbits are attending Aragorn's coronation as King LOTR, and they bow to him, and then he says,
My friends.
You bow to no one.
and it makes me cry every single time. And I don't cry much in movies, but that moment.
That'll get you.
Yeah. So that moment and just realizing the entire story that you just watched, that is one of my favorites. From almost like it's both a storytelling and then also a little bit of a meta moment. But then the other one is after Gandalf comes back from researching about the ring in Minas Tirith, he comes back to the Shire to Frodo, and he sets Frodo off on his quest.
My dear Frodo, hobbits really are amazing creatures. You can learn all that there is to know about their ways in a month, and yet after 100 years, they can still surprise you. Get down.
Confound it all, Samwise Gamgee! Have you been eavesdropping?
I ain't been dropping no eaves, sir, honest.
And so Frodo and Sam go off on this quest. That's the moment that the adventure begins. Mm-hmm. And that to me is it's the moment that feels the most like there is an adventure happening and I don't know what's going to happen next. And I still get that feeling, even though I know exactly what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. It's still that feeling of there's an adventure starting and it's about to be the greatest adventure ever.
Like even Bilbo, like as he's aging, like he wants to go on more of these adventures that he has been on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's all of us though, right? I mean, like even if we don't consider ourselves like an adventurous person, like we want new experiences.
Yeah, because there's so much possibility in adventure. Like anything could happen.
Yeah. Even if we're hesitant or frightened about the world in its current state, like there are parts of us that are so hopeful that we want to see what new things could possibly come in order to make things better. Mm-hmm. Matias, well, thanks so much, man, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I'll give you this back. As much as I love it, I'll give it back to you.
I'd appreciate it.
There is a vicariousness to The Lord of the Rings. We, as the audience, are not the ones who are leaving the Shire to cross into Mordor in order to destroy the One Ring to rule them all, but we are nevertheless on a journey of our own. As we watch these movies, and after the credits roll, we are constantly learning, growing, and discovering more about ourselves. Like we said earlier, there is no set timeline for where you should be right now or 13 months into the future. But look at it this way. Who were you 13 months in the past? Have you learned something about yourself or the world around you? What have you done? Who have you met? Where have you gone? And how have you helped the people in your life? I hope any revelation you have brings you peace. But if you're not there yet, just keep going. Because remember that Frodo wasn't sure if he could make a difference or if this journey was worth it at all. But I hope by the end, you realize how much you are actually capable of and that you bow to no one. Now, because Matias and I talked about the extended cut of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I know that we are bound to leave out something in our discussion. So what was your favorite moment from these films? Let me know in the comments or holler at us over on TikTok or Instagram. Before you go, check out the description for links to Matias's videos. And if you thought this episode was dope, please consider backing us on Patreon. A huge thanks to Matias for chatting with me today and for letting me borrow his cloak. And a Treebeard-sized thank you to all of you for hanging with us. I promise I won't wait as long between episodes as I did this time, but until the next one, I hope no one steals your precious. Take care.
We can cut on all 3 cameras. Thank you guys. This is great.
Nice work, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.